My name is Katherine Morrison and I've spent 32 years being the disappointment in a family that measures success by corporate ladder climbing and impressive job titles. The Morrison family wasn't wealthy, but we were solidly middle class with upper class aspirations. My father, Robert Morrison, worked as a regional sales director for a pharmaceutical company. My mother, Susan, was a human resources manager at a manufacturing firm. They'd built comfortable lives and had very specific ideas about what career success looked like. My younger brother, Michael, was the golden child who understood the game perfectly. After college, he joined TechVantage Solutions, a mid-sized software company with about 800 employees, as a junior account manager. He worked his way up methodically: account manager, senior account manager, account director. He dressed in expensive suits, networked aggressively and talked constantly about his path to VP. Then there was me. After getting my computer science degree, I did something my family considered insane. I turned down a comfortable corporate job at a Fortune 500 company to join a 3-person startup operating out of a garage. "Katherine, that's not a career," Dad said when I told them. "That's a hobby with a business card." "It's a real company with real potential," I replied. "90% of startups fail," Mom added. "You're throwing away a secure future for some fantasy about being an entrepreneur." "Then I'll be in the 10% that succeeds." They weren't just skeptical, they were embarrassed. While Michael climbed the corporate ladder at TechVantage Solutions, earning promotions and attending company events, I was working 100-hour weeks in a cramped office, living on ramen and trying to build something from nothing. The startup was called DataStream Analytics. We were 3 co-founders: me, my college roommate Lisa Chin, and a brilliant engineer named James Rodriguez. We were building AI-powered data visualization software for enterprise clients. It was technically complex, unsexy, and difficult to explain at family dinners. "So you make graphs?" Mom asked once. "We analyze massive datasets and present actionable insights through intuitive visual interfaces," I explained. "So, graphs." I stopped trying to explain. For 5 years I lived in a studio apartment, drove a 15-year-old Honda, and wore the same rotation of jeans and t-shirts. By my family's standards, I was failing spectacularly. Meanwhile, Michael was thriving, promoted to senior account director, earning 6 figures, driving a leased BMW, living in a nice apartment in the city. Family gatherings became showcases for Michael's achievements. His latest promotion, his biggest client, his path to VP. I was the cautionary tale, the daughter who'd chosen wrong who was still playing startup, while her younger brother built a real career. What they didn't know was that DataStream Analytics was succeeding beyond anything they could imagine. While my family celebrated Michael's corporate promotions, DataStream was quietly becoming a powerhouse in the enterprise software market. Our AI visualization platform had solved a critical problem for large corporations: how to make sense of overwhelming amounts of data without needing a team of data scientists. Our software could ingest data from any source, analyze it in real time using machine learning algorithms, and present insights so clearly that executives could make immediate decisions. We landed our first Fortune 500 client in year 3. By year 4 we had 12. By year 5 we had 47. Our revenue trajectory was extraordinary. Year 3, $8 million. Year 4, $32 million. Year 5, $87 million. We weren't just growing, we were dominating our market segment. I owned 37% of the company as co-founder and CEO. Lisa owned 33% as Chief Technology Officer. James owned 30% as Chief Product Officer. We'd taken minimal outside investment, maintaining control of our company and our vision. At the end of year 5, we received an acquisition offer from a tech giant for $340 million. We turned it down. We weren't building something to sell, we were building something to last. Year 6 brought us to $156 million in revenue and a valuation of $890 million. We employed 312 people across 4 offices. I was no longer a startup founder playing at business. I was CEO of a company approaching unicorn status. But I still lived in my modest apartment because I was rarely home. Still drove my old Honda because I didn't care about cars. Still wore practical clothes because I worked in tech, not fashion. By my family's visible metrics, I was still struggling while Michael succeeded at TechVantage Solutions. What made the situation particularly ironic was that TechVantage was one of our clients. They'd signed a 3-year contract with DataStream 2 years ago for $4.2 million annually. Michael worked in their sales division, which had nothing to do with the technology procurement decisions, so he had no idea his sister's company was providing software to his employer. I didn't tell him. Why would I? At family dinners he talked about his work. Nobody asked about mine. Michael's up for VP of Sales, Dad announced at Easter dinner 3 months ago. That's a huge position. 6-figure salary increase, company car, the works. That's great, Michael, I said. It's very competitive, Michael added. 3 internal candidates, but I have the best numbers. My boss, Richard Hartley, is making the final decision in June. If I can impress him, the job's mine. You'll get it, son, Dad said confidently. You've earned it. Michael nodded. I just need everything to go perfectly over the next few months. No distractions, no problems. Richard is very particular about the people he promotes. He looks at everything, performance yes, but also image, family background, the whole package. Good thing you come from a stable, professional family, Mom said. Michael's eyes slid toward me briefly. Yeah. Good thing. I said nothing. I ate my dinner and listened to them plan Michael's future. 2 weeks before Memorial Day, the family group chat lit up with plans for Dad's annual Memorial Day barbecue. It was a tradition. Dad grilled, Mom made sides, family and friends gathered. Usually about 25 people. This year, Michael announced he was bringing Richard Hartley. Michael, big news. Richard Hartley said yes to Memorial Day barbecue. This is huge for my VP chances. We need to make a great impression. Mom, that's wonderful. I'll make sure everything is perfect. Dad, I'll break out the good steaks. This is important. Michael, Richard is old school. Traditional. He cares about family, stability, success. So everyone needs to be on their best behavior. I knew what was coming before the next message arrived. Michael, actually, Katherine, maybe you should sit this one out. I stared at the text message on my phone, sitting in my corner office on the executive floor of DataStream's headquarters. Michael, Richard knows I have a sister, but I've been vague about what you do. If he meets you and finds out you're still doing the startup thing, living in a small apartment, driving that old car, it won't look good for me. Michael, he values success. Real success. Corporate achievement. Not entrepreneur stuff that hasn't gone anywhere. Mom, Michael has a point, honey. This is a big opportunity for him. Dad, your brother's worked hard for this promotion. Maybe it's better if you skip this year. I sat back in my Herman Miller chair, $1 for 100 ergonomic, the kind successful CEOs buy, and read the messages again. My younger brother, who worked as an account director at a company that paid my company $4.2 million annually, was uninviting me from a family barbecue because my presence might damage his chances at a promotion. Michael, it's not personal, Kat. It's just business. Richard needs to see me as executive material. Having a sister who's still figuring things out in her 30s doesn't project the right image. Michael, we can do something together another time. Just family. But Memorial Day needs to be about making the right impression. Mom, Katherine, say something. You understand, don't you? I typed one word. Understood. Then I opened my calendar. Monday was Memorial Day. Tuesday, I had a meeting scheduled with Richard Hartley and 2 other TechVantage executives to discuss renewing their contract with DataStream, potentially expanding it from $4.2 million annually to $8.5 million. Richard Hartley, the VP of Sales who would decide Michael's promotion, was coming to my office for a contract negotiation where he'd learned that I was CEO of his software vendor. The same Richard Hartley who my brother was bringing to a barbecue to impress. I picked up my phone and called my Chief Revenue Officer, Sarah Kim. Sarah, the TechVantage renewal meeting Tuesday. I want to lead it personally. You sure? I can handle it. You usually delegate these renewals. I'm sure. This one's important. Okay, boss. I'll make sure everything's ready. After I hung up, I sat looking out my office windows at the city skyline. DataStream occupied the top 3 floors of one of downtown's premier office towers. My corner office was 1,500 square feet with floor-to-ceiling windows, custom furniture, and walls covered with awards, photos from conferences, and framed articles about DataStream's success. On my desk was a deal sheet for the TechVantage contract renewal. If they agreed to our terms, it would be one of our largest single contracts. And Michael thought I'd make him look bad. Memorial Day weekend arrived with perfect weather. I spent Saturday reviewing the TechVantage contract proposal, Sunday at the office preparing for Tuesday's meeting, and Monday, the day of the barbecue I'd been uninvited from, hiking alone in the mountains outside the city. I didn't feel hurt. I felt clarity. My family had spent 7 years dismissing my choices, judging my success by whether I had a fancy job title and a leased luxury car. They'd valued Michael's corporate promotions over my actual business building. They'd been so focused on conventional markers of success that they couldn't see I'd built something extraordinary. Tuesday morning I arrived at the office at 7 a.m. I dressed deliberately, a custom-tailored suit from the designer my stylist had recommended, subtle but expensive jewelry, Louboutin heels. When you're meeting with clients and want to project authority, presentation matters. Sarah met me in my office at 8:30 to review the presentation. We're offering them an expanded package, she explained. Their current contract covers data visualization for their sales and marketing divisions. We're proposing to extend coverage to operations, finance, and executive analytics. Full enterprise deployment. And the price? $8.5 million annually. Double their current spend, but we're also doubling the value they receive. They'll negotiate. Of course. But Richard Hartley's a smart operator. He'll see the ROI immediately. At 9:45 our receptionist called. Ms. Morrison, the TechVantage team is here. Richard Hartley, Susan Chin, and Michael Morrison. I paused. Michael Morrison? Yes, ma'am. Shall I send them up? Michael was at this meeting. My brother, who'd uninvited me from the barbecue, was attending a contract negotiation at my company. Give us 5 minutes, then bring them to the executive conference room. I turned to Sarah. Did we know Michael Morrison from TechVantage was attending this meeting? She checked her notes. He's listed as account director. Apparently he's been managing the day-to-day relationship with our account team. Makes sense he'd be included in a renewal discussion. It made perfect sense. And it made this about to become very interesting. I walked to our executive conference room, a stunning space with a wall of windows, a custom table that seated 12, and our company logo in brushed steel on the wall. I positioned myself at the head of the table. At exactly 10 a.m., our receptionist escorted the TechVantage team into the room. Richard Hartley entered first, mid-50s, expensive suit, confident demeanor. Susan Chin followed, carrying a portfolio. And then Michael, wearing his best suit, walked in. He saw me and froze. All color drained from his face. His mouth opened. He looked like he was seeing a ghost. Richard Hartley extended his hand, completely unaware of Michael's reaction. You must be Sarah Kim. Thank you for hosting us today. I'm Sarah Kim, Chief Revenue Officer, Sarah said, shaking his hand. But this is Katherine Morrison, RCO. She'll be leading today's discussion. Richard turned to me and I saw the moment of recognition. Morrison, Michael, is this? My sister, Michael managed, his voice barely a whisper. Richard's eyebrows shot up. Your sister is the CEO of DataStream Analytics? She is, I said calmly, extending my hand. Mr. Hartley, it's a pleasure to finally meet in person. DataStream has enjoyed our partnership with TechVantage, and we're excited to discuss expanding that relationship. He shook my hand, then looked at Michael with an expression that clearly said, Why didn't you mention this? Michael still hadn't moved. He was staring at the conference room, at the DataStream logo on the wall, at me standing at the head of the table in my executive suit. Please have a seat, I said graciously. Susan Chin sat immediately. Richard sat slowly, still processing. Michael lowered himself into a chair like he was in shock. Before we begin, Richard said carefully, I need to understand something. Michael, you've been managing our DataStream account for 18 months. You never mentioned your sister was the CEO? I didn't know, Michael said weakly. You didn't know your sister was CEO of one of our major software vendors? I thought she works at a startup. A small startup. I didn't know it was this company. DataStream Analytics is not a small startup, Richard said, his tone carrying an edge. They're one of the fastest-growing enterprise software companies in the sector. They have 300 employees, over 100 Fortune 500 clients, and revenue north of $150 million. That's not a garage operation. I didn't know, Michael repeated. I decided to move things along. Shall we discuss the contract renewal? I know everyone's time is valuable. For the next 40 minutes, I walked Richard and Susan through our proposal. I presented with the polish and confidence of someone who'd done this hundreds of times, because I had. I showed them ROI projections, case studies from similar enterprises, and our technology roadmap for the next 2 years. Michael sat silently, occasionally taking notes, but mostly looking like he wanted to disappear. Richard Hartley was sharp. He asked excellent questions about scalability, security protocols, and integration with their existing systems. I answered each one precisely, demonstrating deep knowledge of both our technology and his company's needs. Your current contract covers sales and marketing analytics, I said, pulling up a dashboard on the screen. Our software has helped TechVantage increase sales efficiency by 32% and reduce customer acquisition costs by 18%. Those are significant gains. Agreed, Richard said. We've been very satisfied with the results. The expanded proposal brings that same capability to your entire organization. Operations can optimize supply chains. Finance can identify cost savings in real time. Your executive team can make data-driven decisions across every division. Susan Chin leaned forward, studying the proposal. The price is significantly higher than our current contract. The value is also significantly higher, Sarah interjected. You're moving from a department-level tool to an enterprise-wide platform. The ROI multiplies accordingly. We discussed pricing for 15 minutes. Richard was a skilled negotiator, but so was I. We found middle ground, $7.8 million annually instead of $8.5 million, with performance guarantees that would benefit both sides. I think we have a deal, Richard said finally. Pending final approval from our CFO, but I'm confident this will go through. Excellent, I replied. Sarah will coordinate with your team on contract specifics and implementation timeline. As we stood to conclude the meeting, Richard turned to Michael. Michael, I'm disappointed you didn't know about this connection. Understanding our vendor relationships is part of your job as account director. Your sister's company is a major partner and you should have been aware. I apologize, sir. I should have done better research. You should have. Richard looked at me. Katherine, thank you for a productive meeting. I'm impressed with DataStream's growth and your leadership. 7 years from founding to market leader. That's exceptional execution. Thank you. We're proud of what we've built. As they prepared to leave, Richard paused. Michael mentioned he has a sister at his family's Memorial Day gathering yesterday. I assume that was you. I wasn't at the gathering, I said calmly. I had other plans. Well, it was their loss. He glanced at Michael with an expression I couldn't quite read. We'll be in touch about contract finalization. Michael, I'll see you at the office. After they left, Sarah looked at me with wide eyes. That was your brother? The one who works at TechVantage? That's him. Did he really not know you were CO here? He knew I worked at a startup. He didn't know which one, how large it was, or what I'd built. He never asked. Wow. My assistant buzzed the intercom. Ms. Morrison, Michael Morrison is in the lobby asking if he can speak with you. I looked at Sarah. Give us the room? She nodded and left. A moment later, Michael entered. He looked devastated. Katherine, I don't even know what to say. Start with why you're here. I needed to understand. How long have you been CEO of DataStream? Since founding. 7 years. 7 years. You've been CEO of a major software company for 7 years and I had no idea. Did you ever ask what I did? Did you ever ask about the company I worked for? Did you ever express any interest in my career beyond dismissing it as startup stuff? He sat down heavily. No, I didn't. I just assumed you were struggling, that you were still trying to make something work that never would. I built a company with $156 million in annual revenue, 312 employees, and contracts with 47 Fortune 500 companies, including yours. TechVantage pays us $4.2 million a year for our software. Soon to be $7.8 million. I manage that account, he said quietly. For 18 months I've been managing the DataStream account at TechVantage. I've attended quarterly business reviews with your account managers. I've approved invoices with your company name. And I never connected that you worked here. Because you never bothered to learn the name of my company. You never asked what DataStream Analytics did or who ran it. You just knew I worked at some startup that wasn't impressive enough to discuss. You're right. God, you're right. He put his head in his hands. I uninvited you from the barbecue because I was embarrassed by you. I told Richard you were still figuring things out. I implied you were unsuccessful. I know. And the entire time you were more successful than I've ever been. You're CEO of a company that's probably worth, what, $1 billion. We're valued at $890 million currently. We'll hit unicorn status within 6 months. He looked up at me and I saw genuine anguish in his expression. I was trying to impress Richard Hartley by excluding you. And now he knows that I excluded my CEO sister from a family event because I thought she'd make me look bad. Do you understand how that makes me look? Like someone with terrible judgment who doesn't understand what real success looks like? He winced. Yeah. Exactly like that. Michael, I'm not angry. I'm disappointed. You had 7 years to ask about my work. 7 years to show interest in what I was building. Instead, you measured me by whether I drove a nice car and lived in an expensive apartment. You couldn't recognize success because it didn't look like your version of corporate achievement. I know. And Katherine, I'm sorry. Truly sorry. For the barbecue, for dismissing your career, for never asking real questions. I was so focused on climbing my ladder that I couldn't see you'd built your own mountain. It was the most self-aware thing I'd ever heard my brother say. What happens now? He asked. With Richard, with the promotion? That's between you and Richard. I'm not going to interfere with your career positively or negatively. You'll earn or lose that promotion based on your own performance. He's going to pass me over. I know it. He's disappointed in my lack of awareness about our vendor relationships. And honestly, I deserve it. Maybe you do. But maybe you'll learn from this and become better at your job. Either way, that's your journey to figure out. He stood slowly. For what it's worth, I'm proud of you. I should have said that years ago, but I'm saying it now. What you've built is incredible. Thank you. And Katherine, I'd like to get to know you better. The real you. Not the version I invented in my head. If you're willing. Eventually. But not today. Today I have a company to run. He nodded and left. Over the next week, the fallout spread through my family like ripples in a pond. Mom, Katherine, Michael told us everything. Why didn't you say something? Dad, we had no idea you were running a major company. You let us think you were struggling. Michael, Richard passed me over for the VP position. He said my lack of awareness about key business relationships showed poor judgment. He's right. Mom, your father and I need to talk to you. Can we meet this week? I responded to none of them immediately. I had a company to run, clients to serve, and a major product launch to coordinate. 3 days after the TechVantage meeting, my parents showed up at DataStream's headquarters unannounced. Security called up. Ms. Morrison, there are 2 people in the lobby claiming to be your parents. Robert and Susan Morrison. Send them up. They stepped off the elevator onto the executive floor looking overwhelmed. The modern design, the floor-to-ceiling windows, the obvious trappings of a successful technology company. My assistant greeted them. Mr. and Mrs. Morrison, Katherine is expecting you. Follow me, please. She led them past the open workspace where engineers coded at standing desks, past glass-walled conference rooms where meetings were in progress, to my corner office. Mom, Dad, I said, standing to greet them. Come in. They entered my office like tourists in a museum, looking around at everything, trying to process what they were seeing. This is your office? Mom asked. This is my office. Katherine, we don't understand, Dad said. Michael said you're CEO of a company worth nearly $1 billion. That's accurate. But you never said anything. You let us think you were failing. I never said I was failing. You assumed I was failing because I didn't have visible markers of success you recognized. I've been CEO of DataStream Analytics for 7 years. I founded this company with 2 partners right out of college. We've built it into one of the fastest-growing enterprise software companies in our sector. Mom sat down carefully in one of my guest chairs. 7 years. We spent 7 years feeling sorry for you. I know. We told people you were still trying to make your startup work, in a tone that implied you were delusional, Dad added. We were embarrassed by you. I know that too. But you were successful the entire time. More successful than any of us ever imagined. Yes. Mom started crying. Why didn't you tell us? Biz, you never asked. At every family dinner, you celebrated Michael's promotions and talked about his career path. When I tried to discuss my work, you changed the subject or dismissed it as entrepreneur stuff. You made it clear you weren't interested unless it looked like conventional corporate success. We were wrong, Dad said quietly. Profoundly wrong. We couldn't see what you were building because we were looking for the wrong things. We talked for an hour. They asked about the company, about my role, about how I'd built something so substantial while living so modestly. I invested everything back into the company, I explained. Every dollar I made went to hiring, technology growth. I lived cheaply by choice, not necessity. That's how you build something real. You sacrifice comfort for growth until you've built something sustainable. Michael said TechVantage pays you millions of dollars a year, Mom said. 4.2 million currently. Soon to be 7.8 million. They're one of 47 Fortune 500 clients. Our total annual revenue is 156 million. Dad shook his head. And we worried about whether you could afford to buy a house. I bought a house last year. I just didn't mention it because you'd already decided I was struggling. 6 months after Memorial Day, DataStream Analytics officially achieved unicorn status with a valuation of $1.1 billion. We announced it at a press conference covered by major business media. My family attended, all of them. Mom, Dad, and Michael sat in the front row as I discussed our growth trajectory, our vision for the future, and our commitment to enterprise innovation. After the press conference, Michael approached me. Congratulations, Katherine. Truly. Thank you. I need to tell you something. Richard Hartley offered me a different position. Not VP of Sales, but Director of Strategic Partnerships. It's lateral in title but actually better for my career development. He said my connection to you, if I can manage it professionally, could be valuable for TechVantage's relationship with DataStream. That's good, Michael. Are you going to take it? I am. And Katherine, I'm going to do it right this time. I've spent the past 6 months actually learning about what you do, what DataStream does, how enterprise software works. I'm reading tech journals. I'm taking courses. I'm becoming someone who understands this industry instead of just dismissing it. That's real growth. I owe you an apology I can never fully make. But I can try to be better. To value substance over appearance. To recognize success even when it doesn't look like I expect. We didn't have a dramatic reconciliation. We weren't suddenly close. But we had a foundation for building something authentic. My relationship with my parents improved steadily. They started asking real questions about my work. They stopped comparing me to conventional career paths. They learned that success can look like many different things. A year after the Memorial Day barbecue I'd been excluded from, my family held another barbecue. This time I was the guest of honor. Not because I was successful but because they finally saw me. Richard Hartley attended. He and Michael had developed a genuine working relationship. He pulled me aside at one point. Michael's becoming an excellent strategic partnerships director, he said. He's learning the industry, building relationships, showing genuine interest in understanding the technology side of our business. That's good to hear. I think that day in your conference room changed him. Seeing his sister's success, real success, not corporate posturing, made him reevaluate his own values. Sometimes reality is the best teacher. Indeed. He smiled. And Katherine, for what it's worth, TechVantage is very grateful for your partnership. The expanded contract has transformed how we operate. Your software is extraordinary. Thank you. That means a lot. That evening, as the sun set and people gathered around the grill, Michael pulled me aside. I know I say this a lot, but I'm sorry. For the barbecue last year. For excluding you. For 7 years of dismissing what you were building. I know, Michael. And I've forgiven you. But I need you to understand something. I didn't build DataStream to prove you wrong. I built it because I believed in the vision. Your opinion of me was never the driving force. That makes it worse somehow. You were doing something extraordinary and I was so focused on my own small ambitions that I couldn't even see it. Then learn from it. That's all any of us can do. 2 years after being uninvited from that Memorial Day barbecue, I stood on stage at a major technology conference giving a keynote address about building sustainable tech companies. 5,000 attendees. My parents and brother watched from the audience. After my talk, a young woman approached me. Ms. Morrison, thank you for your speech. I'm 24, just started my own company, and my family thinks I'm crazy. They want me to get a real job. How did you handle that? I thought about Michael texting me to stay away from the barbecue. About my parents feeling sorry for me while I built a company worth over $1 billion. About the years of dismissal and assumptions. I handled it by doing the work anyway, I replied. By building something so undeniably successful that their opinions became irrelevant. But here's the important part. I didn't build it to prove them wrong. I built it because it mattered to me. Their validation wasn't the goal. The work itself was the goal. What if they never come around? Then you've still built something meaningful. But in my experience, reality has a way of revealing itself. Truth eventually wins. She thanked me and walked away. My brother was waiting nearby. Good advice, he said. Hard-earned advice. Katherine, can I ask you something? Do you think I'll ever do something as significant as what you've built? That's the wrong question, Michael. The question isn't whether you'll be as successful as me. It's whether you'll build something you believe in. Success isn't a competition. It's finding work that matters to you and executing it well. That's actually helpful. I've had time to think about these things. We stood together watching the conference attendees network and exchange ideas. My younger brother, who'd once been embarrassed by me, now worked to understand me. My parents, who'd dismissed my choices, now celebrated my achievements. But the real victory wasn't their changed perception. It was that I'd built something meaningful while they doubted me, and their doubts had never slowed me down. That Memorial Day, when Michael uninvited me from the barbecue, he thought he was protecting his career from his unsuccessful sister. Instead, he'd been excluding the CEO of a company his employer paid millions of dollars annually. The founder of $1 billion enterprise. Someone who'd chosen substance over appearance and built something extraordinary while he'd been focused on impressing his boss. The irony was almost poetic. But the real lesson wasn't about his misjudgment. It was about staying true to your vision even when the people closest to you can't see it. I'd done that. And in doing so, I'd built something that outlasted their doubts and exceeded their expectations. That's real success. Everything else is just noise.